Welcome back to Donington Park, everybody, where Ginettas are about to head onto the circuit, specifically the cars competing in the Ginetta Junior Championship for their second time of the weekend. About to do battle here at Donington Park on the fantastic Grand Prix circuit, which is still a little bit damp, but nowhere near as wet as it was earlier on today. The spectators are starting to emerge from their places of shelter to get themselves trackside for what is guaranteed to be an exciting 17 minutes of racing. A slightly shortened race this because of a couple of delays and the fact that they're going to have 2 green flag laps because it's their first wet running of the weekend. So the cars will circulate twice and then we will get racing for 17 minutes. So yeah, safety car leading them around. Yesterday's race was, as you would expect for Ginetta Juniors, pretty eventful really, although we had some drama after the race. You may remember if you tuned in yesterday, Chase Fernandez disappeared up the road, won by a country mile, certainly in Ginetta Junior racing terms. Well, sadly, he didn't get to keep that first victory of the season because he was penalised after the race for contact that he'd had with Henry Jocelyn up on the exit of Coppice Corner. Early in the race it was, Jocelyn tried to go around the outside of Chase. Chase didn't really leave him any room, put him in the gravel trap and was given a penalty. So Henry Jocelyn inherited the win, and Henry Jocelyn will therefore start from pole position, actually not because of the win yesterday, but because of his second fastest lap time in qualifying, being quicker than anyone else. Chase Fernandez starts alongside him in his second race now for our racing, with Charlie Hart and Marcus Sater on row number 2. Third row for James Shotton, he was in the thick of the action yesterday. Ethan Jeff Hall likewise had to come through the order from a lowly grid position. Then Colin Cronin and Harry Moss together on row number 4, and on the 5th row Jude Peters and Felix Livesey. Then row number 6, James Ellis. He was the last driver to set an eligible lap time in qualifying. Everyone behind him had lap times disallowed, so Isaac Phelps didn't officially set a time. He will start from the outside of row 6, Archie Clark and Ruben Dan on row number 7. Row 8, Nickolas Ellis and Alfie Davis. Row 9 for Torrin Byrne and Max Cuthbert. And then the top 20 completed by Ethan Carney and Tom Ingram Hill. Then it was Alfie Slater and Ollie Mile on row number 11. 12th and last row sees Nickolas Joseph and Jack Robinson lining up together at the back. But yeah, it was a day of penalties yesterday, unfortunately, in the juniors, not just in the race, but in that qualifying session earlier on. There were other drivers who then picked up track limits penalties in the race as well. And in fact, car 21, Nickolas Joseph, picked up 30 seconds worth of track limits penalties in that race yesterday. So Giovanni, who will start towards the back in this one as well, we'll have to try and keep it between the lines if he's going to get a good result in this race. Championship then, after that, amended result yesterday sees Charlie Hart lead by 24 points coming into today's race. He still hasn't won a race yet this year, has Charlie, but he's been super consistent and continued that yesterday with a 3rd place finish. Henry Jocelyn is joint 2nd in the championship now with Chase Fernandez. So interestingly, those two who tangled yesterday, now joint 2nd in the championship as we head into the second race here at Donington Park. A fantastic circuit, a real driver's favourite. For me, it produces some of the best racing in the UK, particularly one-make racing, and that is exactly what we're going to see from the juniors. It's a track that merges the high-speed, sweeping, undulating, flowing 1st and 2nd sectors with then a really tight and technical 3rd sector, and it's that 3rd sector where things often tend to kick off, particularly down at the Melbourne hairpin. A big, steep downhill run into a really big braking zone, and the slowest corner on the track. It is made for dive bombs, and we saw plenty of those yesterday. On board here with James Shotton as he sort of feels out the conditions, really. Now, it is not as wet, not even half as wet as it was half an hour ago. If I would argue there is a drying line starting to emerge now. It's probably still a little bit damp and greasy, but nothing like what it was earlier on. So, tyre choice not such an issue for the juniors, but definitely car setup could be interesting. Who's gone for a wet setup? Who's gone for a dry setup? Perhaps some of them have gone for something in between. We could see a big disparity in performance in this race if there are some drivers and some teams who have got the setup absolutely right for these conditions. Thumbs up there from one of our other onboard camera drivers, Alfie Slater. The number 24. Not quite sure who he was putting his thumbs up for. Oh, he's got, is his bonnet loose? I think his bonnet's a little bit loose, isn't it? He's continuing to gesticulate at somebody. Maybe us, maybe he knows he's on camera. But to me, that bonnet was sort of wobbling a little bit loose. He nearly got into the back of a group of drivers ahead of him then, going into the Melbourne hairpin as well. But no, the bonnet seems okay. Maybe just a trick of the camera. So he is ready and raring to go then for, as I said, a slightly shortened 17-minute race. The safety car will peel into the pit lane. The rest of the cars will then pull up onto the grid ahead of the second race of the weekend. So, Henry Josselin from pole position, Chase Fernandez alongside him, a resumption of their battle from yesterday. And who is going to come out on top today, or will Charlie Hart finally get that first victory of the season? But, you know, you can win a championship without ever winning a race. We've seen it done before, not often, but it has been done. And Charlie Hart, I'm sure, would like to win races, but he'll be, if he gets to the end of the year and he's the champion, he would take that over any number of race victories that you could give him, I'm sure. That is the big target here. The Ginetta Junior Championship, a really important stepping stone on the junior racing ladder. And GT and touring car stars of the future, or indeed the odd Formula One driver of the future, could be found on the grid here this afternoon. Right then, we are ready to go then. Henry Josselin from pole, Chase Fernandez alongside. Who gets the lead into Redgate Corner? It is almost time to find out. As the red lights go on, they go out now after a long hold, and a good start made by Charlie Hart. Bit too much wheel spin there for Chase Fernandez, so Charlie Hart is already up the inside of him, and I think is going to claim second place for his own as they head towards Redgate for the first time. So Josselin leads the way. Charlie Hart, though, trying to break through into second place, and I think will succeed in doing so, although Fernandez is going to try and hang tough around the outside. One or two fresh spots of water on the camera lens there, maybe, as Josselin drifts wide, almost onto the gravel, exiting the first corner. On board then further back with Alfie Slater. He's got Ethan Carney in front of him as they drop downhill through the craners for the first time. Bit of spray at the top of the hill, but by the time we get to the bottom, the track looks pretty dry. One of the R Racing cars getting feisty there. That's Ethan Jeff Hall, the 25, and number 28 also trying to gain some ground there further back. So Harry Moss, I think, actually has lost a couple of places from the start and is now trying to get them back. They race uphill. 3 Elite Motorsport cars there in a gaggle with Archie Clark, one of them, heading towards McLean's corner. Isaac Phelps up the inside. Charlie Hart defending from Chase Fernandez. But Henry Josselin already starting to assert his authority on this race, isn't it? It's not a big lead that he's got, but it's a little bit of a margin as they crest the rise at Coppice. Isaac Phelps there, leaning slightly maybe on the number 25 of Ethan Jeff Hall. And they're still side by side, in fact, as they head down the back straight. Now, Chase Fernandez, interestingly, working with Charlie Hart there. We saw this a little bit yesterday as well, as those two worked together to try and close in. In fact, it wasn't those two, also it was Josselin and Hart trying to close in on Fernandez. Now Chase Fernandez giving the assistance. A bit of bodywork goes flying on the tyre stack down at the chicane. And as they arrive at Melbourne, more and more windscreen wipers are starting to be switched on, aren't they? So a few drivers feeling that maybe the rain is making a return. Bit of touchy-feely stuff there between Isaac Phelps and Ethan Jeff Hall, and that was Felix Livesey, I think, coming up the inside of the pair of them. As they head for Goddard's, though, for the first time of asking. Henry Josselin looks as though he's going to lead them across the line. And not really escaping, but like I said, hasn't had to go defensive at any point on this opening lap, so that's good news for him. On board again with Alfie Slater, who's got an Elite Motorsport car going around the outside. That was Cuthbert. Getting the run off the corner, and in the gravel at the chicane, I am afraid, is the number 15 car, I think that is, in the gravel trap. Or perhaps 75, actually. It could be Colin Cronin. No, 45, there we go, got there in the end. 45, Robinson, Jack Robinson from the back of the grid has deposited himself in the gravel at the chicane. Now, that might require a visit from the safety car. We'll wait and see. Lead us down the hill. And there, James Shotton in 4th position, which James is best result been so far this season. I don't recall seeing him this high up before. No, I think he has had, yeah, he's had a couple of 4th places actually, but not yet been on the podium. And they're knocking on the door of it here this morning. Side-by-side action further back there. That's Ruben Dan, the yellow and black Elite Motorsports number 11 car, the first of the 2 yellow and black cars anyway, gaining a place. Oh, and now Felix Livesey's off at the old hairpin, so we've got 2 of them now. Maybe it is starting to get a little bit more slippery out there. So Felix Livesey in the gravel at the bottom of the hill. And that's now 2 cars that are going to need recovering from precarious positions. We'll await news from race control as to whether we're going to get a safety car interruption, and there comes the news that we didn't really want, but was becoming more and more inevitable with two cars now needing recovery. As you can see there, Felix Livesey's car is not for moving, despite the amassed strength of a number of marshals. Safety car leaves the pit lane, the cars slow down to a safety car speed as they head through the chicane. Felix Livesey's car still going nowhere, I am afraid. Robinson's car also hasn't made it to the end of the lap, so I'm guessing he's still stuck in the gravel over at the Fogarty S's. So there's the safety car then, waiting for the drivers to emerge from the final corner, which they will in a few seconds' time. And then head for Redgate corner at a controlled pace. So Henry Josselin then leading the way, and again this is all kind of falling into his hands, isn't it? It's a shortened race anyway. He got a good start and didn't really have to do too much hard work on the first lap defending wise, and now the safety car is going to eat into the middle part of the race as well. So actually this is playing beautifully into the hands of the race leader Henry Josselin. Any time that you can not have to work too hard in the lead of a Ginetta Junior race is definitely a bonus. So he'll be actually the only satisfied man probably to see the safety car appearing out on track. There's Charlie Hart in behind him weaving around. Third, Fernandez. Fourth is the leading rookie, Marcus Sater, who set the fastest lap last time around for what it's worth, although we haven't yet had a full flying lap in the race. The damage as well further back is that Cuthbert's car, I think it is, isn't it? I think Max Cuthbert's picked up some damage. He, I reckon, was the driver who caught the tyre stack at the chicane on the opening lap. So the bodywork missing on the left front corner. Won't slow him down too much, but hopefully that's not done any damage to the steering or anything like that. Screen wiper still on. There is Max Cuthbert's car, so you can see, yeah, the geometry looks okay, doesn't it? He's just given them a little bit of a whack and peeled away the left front corner of the number 34 car, but doesn't appear to have done any damage to the steering. Be able to see that the wheels are pointing in different directions if that were the case, so he's okay, but yeah, proves again that those tyre stacks, I suppose, are doing their job though, because they're there to stop people cutting the chicane. But of course on the first lap of the race, very easy if you're side by side particularly to make a little bit of contact with them. Felix Livesey's car out of the gravel trap now, the rear bodywork being carried away by Marshall, so that recovery operation is done. It's now really just about this car being recovered, the Jack Robinson machine, pointing the wrong way in the gravel at the chicane. How he got there, I don't know, whether he did it on his own, but it's an easy place to lose control anyway. It's a very rapid change of direction. Racing cars don't really like doing that. No cars do, really. The weight shifting aggressively from one side to the other. Then you throw in the slippery conditions and the curbs, and there's a bump in the road as well. Very easy to make a mistake through there. No mistakes made so far by Henry Josselin, though. He grabbed the lead at the start of the race, and so far hasn't really had to look back. Charlie Hart moving through into second position was the big story through the first couple of corners. Having said that Josselin didn't make a mistake, actually he did really, didn't he? Because look how wide he was there out of Redgate corner. Generally get away with track limits on the first lap. A bit of contact there with the tyre stack maybe for Alfie Slater as well. And here we're about to see Max Cuthbert. There he goes. Clips the tyre stack. There goes the bodywork. He's lost the headlight as well, I think, since then. And plenty of debris lying on the road as a result of that. Brilliant super slow-mo shots from our camera operator down at the chicane. And here, further back, this is going to be down through the old hairpin. Oh, and Felix Livesey, did he tangle with Nickolas Ellis? I think he might have done. That's Nickolas Ellis rejoining the circuit, the red number 7 car, and I think maybe he got together with Felix Livesey. It was hard to tell from that view exactly what happened, but I reckon there might have been a touch between the two. So Felix Livesey sort of solves that mystery. How Jack Robinson ended up off the road, I don't know, but there is Jack Robinson. He's back in his car. The car is out of the gravel, still pointing the wrong way, but he can rectify that pretty quickly. All from bodywork catching on the ground as well. He'll drag a load of gravel right across the width of the track. Thank you, Jack. He didn't have much choice, I suppose, but that's going to make for interesting viewing when we get back to that part of the circuit at full racing speed next time by, because we should get a restart this time, hopefully. Felix Livesey, by the way, has just completed a lap, so he's continuing in the race. It was always the case years ago that when you went off the track, if you needed outside assistance to rejoin the race, you were then sort of sent back to the pit lane. You weren't allowed to continue in the race. That rule has changed now. So, which is for the better, really, because you've already been punished enough for going off. Usually it takes a lap or two to get the car back underway, so you out of contention. You might as well still let the driver continue in the race, run the laps, and maybe learn a few things that could be applied later in the weekend. So Felix Livesey at least still in the race. I would imagine the same will apply to Jack Robinson, except he's had to pit because he's got that dislodged from bodywork, but he may be able to get back out there and complete a few laps before the race is over, which will be in 8 minutes' time. There is Jack Robinson's car. And work being done not just to the bodywork, I think, but also just checking where the gravel has gone, because gravel gets everywhere that it's not supposed to be. And that was close. That's James Shotton, I think it was, wasn't it? Carrying a real head of steam through the chicane, but it's almost time to get back up to full racing speed because the lights are out on the safety car, and we are going to go racing again at the end of this lap. So you can see there Henry Josselin backing the field together. Charlie Hart weaving around behind him, trying to anticipate the safety car restart as best he can. Look at the gravel on the road down at the hairpin. I mean, that is going to be like an ice rink when they get down there at racing speed next time by. So a very messy Donington Park Grand Prix circuit awaits for what's going to work out at just under a 7-minute shootout here for the second race of the weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship. They're all bumper to bumper, look, as they head up the hill, all just waiting in anticipation. As soon as they see movement ahead, they will floor it. It's likely going to happen just as we turn into Goddard's. I would think that Henry Josselin will hit the loud pedal and accelerate away. We're on board with James Shotton as he tries to anticipate the restart. Still, we're not accelerating. Now we are, and we get racing back underway. No overtaking before we cross the line, of course. Henry Josselin right to the edge of the road. That wasn't actually a great run off the corner in the end as a result. So Charlie Hart is quite close to him as they head towards Redgate Corner. But is he close enough to make a move? He doesn't even look to the inside line. And in fact, they're all, I think, going to stay single file on the restart then. Redgate they go, very wide for the race leader though, and that has opened the door for Charlie Hart. Charlie Hart gets alongside Henry Josselin, who just as he did on the first lap of the race, gets it all wrong through Redgate, but this time he might be punished for it. Charlie Hart trying to get alongside, but Josselin carries the speed through the Craner curves, gets back in front of the Elite Motorsport driver and retains the advantage. A move made further back by Ethan Jeff Hall. That was to take 5th place away from James Shotton. They all run wide over the curb and the concrete runoff area at the old hairpin, and Henry Josselin finds himself still in the race lead. I think that was Max Cuthbert in the gravel further back, but hopefully we'll be able to dig his way back out as the leaders arrive at McLean's corner. And Chase Fernandez says he's going to go around the outside of everybody. He's into 2nd place, I would reckon, on the exit of the corner. Gets squeezed over the curb. Can he force his way back in line? He's got Marcus Sater joining in as well now, his R-Racing teammate. And Charlie Hart, who a couple of corners ago was nearly in the lead, is now off the podium, down to 4th position for Charlie, and that was not according to plan. On board again as we head down the back straight with James Shotton. We've got Ethan Jeff Hall gesticulating at somebody. I think maybe ushering Charlie Hart back onto the inside line there. Black and white warning flag going out to Felix Livesey for track limits. Well, yes, I suppose he did exceed track limits when he went into the gravel trap, but well, actually specifically say track limits. It could be for something else, but anyway, he's back in the race and already being warned that he's going to get in trouble. Right, down towards the ice rink we go. A couple of people getting very brave on the brakes. We've had a spin at the chicane for Tom Ingram Hill. And we're going 3 abreast further back at the hairpin. Ethan Jeff Hall there, who had been gaining places at the start of the lap, I seem to recall, getting squeezed way wide. Oh, no, sorry, it's not Ethan, it's one of his teammates, actually. Beg your pardon. Might have been Harry Moss, maybe, number 28. Yes, it was, losing a couple of spots at the hairpin. Up the inside attempts to go, Alfie Davis, and I think he will find a way past Colin Cronin. So place gain there. Jude Peters gets elbowed out wide. It's all going on in the midfield, and a wave of frustration for James Shotton, who is a lot further down the order than he should be. So something happened to James there at the final corner, I think, and he's dropped all the way down to 14th place. So we'll try and piece that together with his onboard camera, maybe. Get a replay in a moment. James Shotton then down in 14th. 9 places lost somewhere. We're with Alfie Davis now. Jude Peters ahead of us as we head for the Craner curves for the 6th time. Black flag, actually, for Felix Livesey, I beg your pardon. So actually, I reckon that is because he's continued in the race after receiving outside assistance. So maybe the rule hasn't changed, but Felix thought it had. They've Shotton there, levering aside one of the Elite Motorsport drivers, gaining a place. Nickolas Ellis, I think that was that he got past, and we're now chasing down another Elite Motorsport driver in the shape of Ruben Dan. Cuthbert did lose a lot of places on that lap as well, so I think it was Max that I saw in the background of shot going into the gravel at the old hairpin. The rest of them wind their way uphill towards Coppice Corner again. Henry Josselin leading the way by 7/10 nearly at the start of the lap. I wonder whether or not Chase Fernandez and Marcus Sater have closed him down. Well, not really in the first sector. In the second sector, again, no. Actually, the gap goes out slightly, so Henry Josselin driving really well at the moment. There is Ethan Jeff Hall sideways through the chicane. On the tail then of Charlie Hart. Both cars with a bit of mud spattered over the front of them. Sun now, they're trying to break back through the clouds again here at Donington Park, so the track conditions are going to be evolving ever further. And more than likely going to be getting better, albeit the track's still covered in gravel and debris and probably bits of oil as well, so it's not going to be a great set of track conditions, but at least it's getting drier. As we head for the Goddard's hairpin to begin what will be the penultimate lap of the race. 2 more laps to go. Henry Josselin just needs to try and keep his cool here, and he could be on course for a race victory. That inherited win yesterday was his first win of the year, but he'd love to claim a victory by taking the checkered flag first. Isaac Phelps, meanwhile, as he was yesterday, making really good progress. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, a 2:04.3 in 6th position. Isaac Phelps, number 35. There, meanwhile, is James Shotton, the Fox Motorsport driver, continuing to bounce back from whatever that drama was that he had a lap or so ago. He is into 12th position now, James. That's a shame, though. He was on course maybe for one of his best results of the season. And now finds himself on a recovery drive. His next target is Colin Cronin ahead of us. But actually, this group of drivers being led by Jude Peters, who is in 9th position, so there's a chance for a top 10 still here. That's Felix Livesey in, by the way, getting a scolding for continuing in the race, when he shouldn't have done. Here, the fight for 4th position continues, and Charlie Hart does not want to be losing any more positions here because he's already in 4th place. Henry Josselin, who is joint 2nd in the championship, is leading, and the man that he's joint 2nd in the championship with, Chase Fernandez, is in 2nd place. So Charlie Hart losing points already to the people that matter most. And Isaac Phelps, actually, who's on the back of this little trio now, is 4th in the championship. And guess who's 5th? It's Ethan Jeff Hall. So, yeah, the drivers around Charlie Hart are really his early championship rivals. He's losing points to a couple of them already. Does not want Ethan Jeff Hall or Isaac Phelps to find a way through. Here, though, is the battle for the race lead. Chase Fernandez has caught Henry Josselin out of nowhere. So Henry Josselin, who was 7/10 up at the start of the lap, has now lost the lead. There's a touch between them at the Melbourne hairpin, but Chase Fernandez goes through. Not the first time these two have traded paint this weekend. In the gravel is Colin Cronin. Oh, I don't think he's going to dig his way out of there, is he? Colin Cronin in a dangerous position. We're about to start what would be the final lap of the race, but unfortunately, it's a race that might not finish under green flag conditions. Way wide there goes Ethan Jeff Hall, sort of dives back for the late apex and chops across the nose of Archie Clark, but loses a place to Isaac Phelps. So Isaac Phelps up another spot now into the top 5. James Shotton there in the background doing battle with Alfie Davis. So Shotton is now in the top 10 if he can make this move stick. Davis battling away for 10th position here with James Shotton. Shotton on the outside line on the way in, cuts back to the late apex. That was a textbook switchback manoeuvre. Brilliant stuff from James Shotton, and he will pull well clear, I suspect, of Alfie Davis as they head down the hill. So, no sign of a safety car, so they are going to let this race finish, presumably with local yellows at the chicane. They haven't, to my knowledge, been able to push Colin Cronin's car out of the way, so I think it is still there. Oh no, they are stopping the race. The red flag is out, and that is a shame, mainly, really, for, I say mainly for Henry Josselin, because it's going to rob him of a chance of getting back past Chase Fernandez, but the results, I think, will go back a lap, won't they? So Josselin will probably re-inherit the race victory. We'll wait and see, because this caught me out in the Caterham race yesterday, but I'm pretty sure Josselin was leading a lap ago, and it always used to be the case that we went back a lap with a red flag, but we'll await confirmation of that. So Chase Fernandez might not have quite timed that move to perfection, because that red flag coming out, which of course he couldn't have foreseen, means that Henry Josselin, yes, has been moved back to the top of the timing sheet. So Henry Josselin is your winner. So again, the second race he's won this year, and the second time he's not been able to take the checkered flag first. That is a bit of a shame, isn't it, for Henry? But he'll take the wins, gladly. He'll take the points. And it means that he'll close in quite nicely, actually, on Charlie Hart. Hart will be scored 4th, but that's at least 12 points. Well, it will be 12 points lost to Jocelyn, possibly 13, because Jocelyn was on pole as well, wasn't he? So that gap of 24 points is going to more than halve after that race. That's the risk, really, isn't it? With Charlie Hart, he's building a season based on consistency rather than outright race wins. This is the move for the lead then. Fernandez had the better run out of the chicane, got to the inside and then parked it. And there was a little bit of a touch between the two of them. I mean, Jocelyn might not like that. It was fairly robust, but I don't really think Chase did anything wrong there. He got the move made. He didn't make the apex, but he made the corner and was really just parking the car to try and prevent the switchback, I think, from Jocelyn. But anyway, it matters little because Jocelyn inherits the win anyway. And this was what happened to Colin Cronin. Oh, and it was contact, I think, with Nickolas Ellis. And look at Ruben Dan taking avoiding action. Oh, my word. And someone else coming in at a real rate of knots. Is that the car we're on board with here, the 27? I think it might have been. Oh, just, well, a little bit less dramatic on board, actually, didn't it? Ironically. But Alfie Slater arriving at speed, and of course in the damp and slippery conditions, there's only so much you can do to scrub that speed off. So, yeah, maybe looked worse than it was that, but he did well to avoid colliding with the stricken cars. Henry Jocelyn inherits the race win for the second race in a row. He manages to win without crossing the line first, and for the second time in a row, it's Chase Fernandez who's on the wrong end of that deal. He ends up with another second-place finish. Marcus Sater comes home in third ahead of Charlie Hart and Ethan Jeff Hall. Then it was Isaac Phelps, Archie Clark, Harry Moss, Jude Peters, and Alfie Davis to complete the 10. Then it was James Shotton and Nickolas Ellis, 11th and 12th. 13th, Ruben Dan. 14th, Alfie Slater. Torin Byrne was 15th, ahead of Holly Mile, Ethan Carney, Tom Ingram Hill, James Ellis, and Max Cuthbert. Giovanni Cassell-Joseph then was 21st. Felix Livesey was retirement to the pit lane. After that, off at the old hairpin, and, well, actually got black flagged in the end for continuing in the race. Jack Robinson, of course, was off at the chicane, and Colin Cronin was the reason for the red flag after that spin at the Fogarty S's. So, race 2 for the Ginetta Juniors in the book. Their third and final race of the weekend, due to kick off at about 5:20, so they've got a bit of a break now to assess the situation, assess what happened, maybe repair the cars for those that, again, were in the wars in that race. But an ever-drying Donington Park circuit provided a really entertaining second race of the weekend for the Ginetta Junior Championship. Henry Jocelyn made a good start from pole position. Charlie Hart pulling up alongside Chase Fernandez for second place and would move into second place in the early stages. That was sadly, though, as good as it would get, really, for Charlie in that race. Jocelyn leading the pack through Redgate Corner, survived a little bit of a scary moment over the curbs and looked set to assert his authority on the race. Max Cuthbert clipped the tyre stack through the chicane. That damaged his car, but he was able to continue in the race. There was then a tangle down at the old hairpin between Felix Livesey and Nickolas Ellis. Livesey ended up getting stuck in the gravel trap at just about the same time as Jack Robinson was off at the chicane. That led to a safety car. On the restart, Henry Jocelyn looked as though he was going to pull clear of a battle that was raging behind. There was an early challenge from Chase Fernandez to get the lead. He had to settle in the end for second position. And then as Charlie Hart started doing battle with the other R Racing cars, it allowed Fernandez to start chasing after the race leader. Chicane was catching a few drivers out, including Tom Ingram Hill, who had a spin on the exit of the corner, but was able to continue in the race. Chase Fernandez eventually caught Henry Jocelyn and made the move for the lead heading into the Melbourne hairpin. This was just before the start of the final lap. For the second time this weekend, there was contact between them, but it looked as though Fernandez had timed it to perfection. That was until Colin Cronin was tapped into a spin and got stuck in the gravel at the chicane. That led to the red flag being thrown before the checkered flag, and with the results going back a lap, it's Henry Jocelyn who, for the second time this weekend, inherits the race win.